Black people control $1.7 trillion annually in just consumer spending. And what we're saying is we've got to start being much more conscientious about our spending choices.
In this edition of The Color Between the Lines, I'm speaking with someone whose voice sits at the center of the national economic movement, Black Voters Matter co-founder LaTosha Brown. You've seen the headlines about the We Ain't Buying It campaign, but behind the headlines, there's a deeper strategy, one grounded in economic power, community protection, and the legacy of Black organizing. She spoke with me from Montgomery, Alabama, where she was attending the 70th anniversary of the Montgomery Bus Boycott. And boy, did she leave a message about this moment, this movement, and our power as consumers. It's really something you need to hear. Tell me first, I know that this We Ain't Buying It campaign has been ongoing starting for Thanksgiving, but it's past Thanksgiving now. Is this still going on? And what is the focus that you really want people to understand about this campaign?
So thank you. The We Ain't Buying It campaign was the economic action that we really focused on for 5 days. It started on Thursday of Thanksgiving and ended on, technically that phase of it ended on Monday, Cyber Monday, but folks wanted to keep going. Why? Because we ain't buying it. So as a result, as the organic movements happen, they continue to happen. We still ain't buying it, y'all. That ultimately what this movement is about is three things. One, we want to reclaim our power as consumers. Black people control $1.7 trillion annually in just consumer spending. And what we're saying is we've got to start being much more conscientious about our spending choices. We've got to support companies that support us. And if those companies can't stand and support us, right, then why are we continuing to give them our dollars? And so if nothing else, we wanted people to really understand like how important our dollars are and how important our economic actions can make a difference. So as a result, what we were able to do is over 228 organizations actually joined the campaign. They're part everything from labor unions to civic engagement groups to civil rights groups to grassroots organizations to garden clubs, right? We had such a spread, over 40 million social media engagements. We had people that spread, there were content creators and other folks who actually it was an organic movement that really wanted to send a message. And so I want folks to know, just like we're not buying what they're selling now, don't buy the lies that it did not make a difference. Not only did it make a difference, but when you look at foot traffic all across the nation, 3.7%, that was down. Even if you go back and look at the projections, that they came in 500 million less than what they thought on Black Friday alone. So we're gonna see the full picture when it comes in January. But I want people to understand that economic actions work. That is why we're seeing so much propaganda to say otherwise, to keep us believing that this economy is good. Now, who really think this economy is good? When we're seeing, I'm looking at eggs and milk and groceries, even when I was going shopping, just to feed my family, that ultimately we're seeing prices rise. We know that almost 1 million Black women have been pushed out of the job market. When we see 300,000 Black women who work at federal jobs were 300,000 and counting. I'm saying that our community is under attack. And so part of what we're doing is organizing ourselves, not just this season, but we continue. We wanted folks just to understand, like, one of the organizations, the Mass Blackout says, this was just a warning shot. This was a warning shot for those 5 days to let people understand, to let those companies know that we ain't buying it. We will not continue to go on and support businesses that don't support and stand with us. Now, part of our campaign, it wasn't the We Ain't Buying It campaign. It was not a boycott. It was a series of actions, economic actions. And one of those actions that has continued to go, we want people to continue to support it, has been the Target boycott. The Target boycott is being led by Black folks. Dr. Jamal Brown, I just did a panel with him in Montgomery because we're celebrating the 70th anniversary of the Montgomery Bus Boycott. This was a boycott that was supposed to be one day that wound up lasting for 381 days. Like initially with the boycott, it was not so that you could actually get the people, Black folks, all they said they wanted was to be treated with dignity and respect. And as a result, as the movement continued to grow, they were able to ask for some specific demands that literally led to the integration of public transportation all around the country. So I'm saying that because I want people to understand that those 5 days of, as those of you that participated, thank you, y'all, they mad, we're winning, right? We've got to build on our success, but mighty rivers are filled drop by drop. This was just a first start. We will build on that. We will continue to build on that. because what's really important is not just not spending our money, but it's really how we spend our money and who we spend our money with.
You led me to the next question because Target was just one of the few businesses. I know there's a list. Can you talk a little bit about what that list includes?
So we wanted people, there were three businesses on that particular action that we highlighted in Target. It was Target, it was Home Depot, because what we've been seeing them in terms of how they have been aligning themselves with this administration, have been sending surveillance out for ICE to come into communities, being even the customers. I want folks to think about it. The very customers that helped build this business. And we also lifted up Amazon. Why Amazon? Because Amazon has also capitulated. They've spent millions of dollars. You've spent money in the inauguration and the support so you can get a tax break at the expense of what it is doing, the hurtful and harmful policies. So no, we are not continuing as we continue. But we also wanted people to take ownership of this campaign. And you know who the bad actors are in your community. Y'all know the companies that have actually come out and said that they're not supporting DEI. We have to be much more disciplined as spenders, that we reclaim our power, say we're not buying it. But what's really important, that I think was the biggest part of our campaign and what we want people to understand, was around the redirecting. We were reclaiming, but we were redirecting our dollars. What does that mean? We were encouraging people to buy from Black businesses, to small local owned businesses, to women businesses. One of the businesses, I just can give two examples. One example is there's a business called the Little Blue Cart.
Hey, if this conversation is resonating with you and it's shifting the way you think about power, protest, and the Black economy, I invite you to subscribe to The Color Between the Lines. It's free and it helps me bring more of these voices to the forefront and bring history in real time. You can subscribe on YouTube, follow the podcast, or join the email list, whichever way you want to stay connected.
That is an online shopping business. They saw a 400% increase in sales on Black Friday. In addition to that, there's an app called BLAPP, BLAPP. And if that app, it has geo-tracking where you can actually locate where there are Black local businesses, that they saw an increase in downloading on that weekend. We have to understand that we are doing work, but we're in protracted struggle. We're going to hear all kinds of spins, but I can guarantee you that at the end of the day, when people come together, we really make a difference. And that's what happened in that campaign. If anything, we wanted people to become more conscientious of our economic choices, that we're just out of convenience. We're actually supporting the very people who are taking money from our tables. So it's not just when we saw the 42 million people who actually need SNAP benefits, that we saw how they were treated in this moment and how we were treated in this moment. But in addition to that, I don't know if folks know that there were Black businesses that had contracts with the federal government that have lost those contracts, not because they weren't doing a good job, but quite frankly, because this racist trope that is happening right now, right? They lost those contracts. And then we're told that their certifications of where they put their time, money, energy, and resources in, that those certifications don't count anymore, that they're going to have to get recertified, and haven't even really been given adequate information around how to get recertified. The bottom line is they are coming for our checks. They've been coming for our bodies. They've been coming for our political power. And what do we need to do? We need to leverage every single bit of power that we have, our political capital, our cultural power, and also our economic power. We can no longer be in control of over $1 trillion, almost $2 trillion in consumer spending, and not hold folks to a standard of who's going to stand and support our communities. And if they're not supporting our communities, then we ain't buying it. So that's part of what the campaign was. I'm hoping that it planted seeds. We know that there were, we had a pledge that over 40,000 people actually signed a pledge to commit to being more conscientious consumers going forward. And so we believe Mighty Rivers Drill build drop by drop. This ain't the last. This ain't the last that you heard of us, right? We're just getting started. We're saying shots have been fired. We've sent out the warning shots. It's up to companies that we're saying we want businesses to thrive, but we don't want businesses to thrive off the exploitation and extraction of our power. That fundamentally what we want is we want businesses that are going to align with their principles. Don't make Black people just be a marketing toy. You can't sit here and use us as a bottom line, as a marketing ploy, and ultimately the first sign you capitulate and throw us under the bus. We're not taking that no more. We ain't buying it.
Well, people listening who may think, a boycott just won't change anything. It may take them out for a few months or whatever, but it really don't significantly make big change. What do you say to that skepticism?
As I sit here, how you doing? As I sit here right now in Hope Street Baptist Church, right, which is the church that was one of the foundations of the Montgomery Bus Boycott on the 70th anniversary of the Montgomery. The people just cleared out of the 70th anniversary of the Montgomery Bus Boycott. Matter of fact, I'm probably getting ready to go outside. The original bus is actually outside the door. How dare we think why would we believe that when fundamentally we saw commerce change, we saw access, civil rights access, all of those things change because a few Black folk in a little real rural community called Montgomery, Alabama, decided that they said, we ain't buying it. We're not getting on that bus. That one of our members of our community was mistreated, and we're going to use our power to actually build. And that movement that was only supposed to be one day wound up being 381 days. So my point is, seeds have been planted. At the end of the day, because we're in protracted struggle, we have the power, and I believe in us. We have the power to make that change. So those who are doubt, if you can't see it in this moment, then I'm asking you to look back at your history. Look back at the history of your people and look what we have been able to do. And the truth of the matter is, there's folks that might not care. There's a lot of folks that don't care about us. They don't care about our communities thriving. But let me tell you what they do care about. They care about that dollar bill. Trust and believe they care about what their stock value is. Trust and believe they care about what their profit margin is. And so what we have is we have power to be able to impact that. You can't have profits when you actually are, when you're losing your customer base. You can't continue to grow when your brand is starting to be attached to something that is negative. And so ultimately, we have to believe in our power. It's not about the other folks believing in our power. It is up to us. It's about what we believe.
Dr. King often reminded us that our power isn't just about protest. It's about strategic use of our economic influence. If he were here today, how would you think that he would view this moment that we're in and movements like We Ain't Buying It that use dollars as a form of democracy?
Well, the first thing I did right was the day I started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize and hold on, hold on. Ironically, I just left the panel that we just completed. His daughter, Dr. Bernice King, was here, and she actually spoke specifically about what her father said. And if people go back and they look, we look at, and Roland Martin referred to this as well. If people go back and look at Dr. King's speech on the mountaintop speech, you only really know the clips of the first 2 minutes, but I want y'all to look, it's over a 40-minute speech. He specifically talks about, he was in Memphis doing work around economic justice. It was really, they were organizing with the janitors, and it was around economic justice. And so we have to really understand how important that is. I think in this moment, I think the same things that he believed and he talked about during that time, I think they're applicable in this moment. So I have no reason to believe that he would think anything different than what's happening. And I think it was very clear about we needed to make sure that we were starting our framework was a moral center, that we understand that our cause is a moral cause. I still believe that's the case. Secondly, he believed that it was that even in terms of as we were fighting for Black liberation, it wasn't just about the liberation of ourselves, but that through our liberation, all communities would be liberated. I still believe that holds true. And I believe that that is the case as well. He talked about the three evils. He talked about militarization. He talked about poverty. And he talked about wages and economic hardship. All of those things. When we're thinking about the attack on voting rights, when we're thinking about the undermining of our economic stability, all of those things are the same things that we fought, but it's a different fight. Because racism didn't end, it just became, in some ways, more sophisticated. It became slicker. And so now what we're seeing this old school Jim Crow try to raise himself up from the dead. We got to kill him once and for all. What I do know for sure is that there are different generations of people that are doing work in this moment. And what Dr. King would often say is that he would talk about that it was important for us to understand and to organize from a place of who we are and not get swayed or we're not going to become our oppressor. We're not going to get to the point that we see hate or have, but ultimately Our goal is to always build the beloved community. And that is what we're doing with the We Ain't Buying It campaign. That's what we've been doing. We've been building a beloved community. That there's some folks in there that are activists. There's some people who have never done any activism in their lives. There's some people that are in the church. There's some people who do work on the streets. Ultimately, how do we build a beloved community that we are aligned, that we are never going to stand for the mistreatment of any human being? How are we going to be the beloved community and recognize that our power is not just political power, our power is also economic power, and use that in such a way that understanding that we got choice. Can't nobody make you buy anything. You can have all the ad commercials, but you have total choice on how you spend your hard working money. And why should it go to organizations, to businesses that will not stand for you?
My thanks to LaTosha Brown for this inspiring conversation and for grounding us in the truth that our power isn't abstract, it's measurable, it's collective, and it's still unfolding. And if you'd like to hear more about the We Ain't Buying It campaign, I've included the links to the campaign page, the pledge, and the resources on how you can support Black-owned businesses in your community. I'm Esther Dillard, and this is The Color Between the Lines.